Appreciate it. Tonight, we know the identity of a woman shot to death last night while the search for her killer continues. This right here is 32-year-old Courtney Reese. Her aunt tells us she was a mother of four and was still alive when EMS arrived, but she later died at the scene. The shooting happened around 9 last night on Springside Drive. It's still unclear what led to the shots being fired. Atlanta police are...
It was just past midnight on August 20th, 2024. The air over Springside Drive in southeast Atlanta was thick and humid, the kind of southern night where sound seems to hang in the air a little too long. Most of the neighborhood had gone quiet, save for the distant hum of traffic and the rhythmic chirp of crickets. Then, from somewhere down the block, came the echo of a woman's voice, sharp, panicked, pleading. Moments later, a sound ripped through the silence. Gunshots. Neighbors jolted awake. Porch lights blinked on one by one, illuminating a small stretch of cracked pavement and the shadow of a figure running, a man in a white hoodie, vanishing into the dark. When the first residents rushed outside, they found her, 32-year-old Courtney Reese, lying motionless near the curb. A mother of four, her body was broken, her life ending beneath the glow of a flickering streetlight. One neighbor, too shaken to move, stood frozen, staring at the scene in disbelief. Atlanta police arrived within minutes, sealing off the street with yellow tape. As medics worked frantically to save her, the stillness of that neighborhood gave way to chaos, sirens, voices, radio chatter. But nothing could bring Courtney back. By the time they reached the hospital, she was gone. What happened to Courtney wasn't random. Detectives knew that almost immediately. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong, or a chance encounter on a lonely street. It had the unmistakable mark of something personal, the kind of violence born not from strangers, but from someone who once claimed to love her. In the hours that followed, police would review surveillance footage that captured the horrifying truth, a cold-blooded attack, deliberate and close range. And as they worked through the night, one question began to take hold. Who could hate Courtney enough to do this? What no one knew yet was that the answer was already in plain sight, someone whose face she once trusted, whose voice she knew too well, and whose obsession was about to ignite one of Atlanta's most chilling domestic tragedies of the year. Before the sirens, before the streetlights flashed blue and red against the quiet homes of southeast Atlanta, Courtney Reese was simply known as Love. Her friends called her Court, and to her family, she was the glue that held everyone together. A 32-year-old mother of four, Courtney's life revolved around her children. She was the kind of woman who'd wake up early to make breakfast, juggle school drop-offs, and still find time to laugh through exhaustion. She had a warm, contagious energy, the type that filled a room without effort. Those who knew her said she could take the most ordinary day and make it feel like a celebration. Birthdays, cookouts, baby showers, if Courtney was there, the music was louder, the food was better, and the laughter lasted longer. But like so many single mothers, her life wasn't easy. Behind the bright smile was a woman who had learned to survive, who had weathered heartbreak, financial stress, and the constant pressure of being everything for everyone. Still, she refused to give in. Every picture of her seemed to say the same thing, I've been through it, but I'm still standing. Among those closest to her, though, there were whispers, quiet concerns about a man she'd once been involved with. A relationship that had started with affection but ended in something darker. She didn't talk about him much anymore. Not in detail. Just enough for her loved ones to know that things hadn't ended well. Courtney had been trying to move on, to build stability for her kids and maybe, finally, a sense of peace for herself. But in the months leading up to that August night, some of her friends noticed small shifts. She seemed anxious at times, distracted, glancing over her shoulder when she left the house. No one knew exactly why, and when asked, she'd shrug it off with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Atlanta is a city full of noise, traffic, laughter, music, but for Courtney, the noise sometimes carried echoes she couldn't ignore. Echoes of arguments that ended badly. Messages left unanswered. Promises made and broken. Whatever history she shared with that man was supposed to be behind her. But as detectives would soon discover, the past had been watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. Every tragedy leaves traces long before the final act. For Courtney Reese, those warning signs had been quietly forming like cracks in a foundation, small, almost invisible at first, until one day, everything gave way. People close to her would later recall moments that, in hindsight, felt like red flags, fragments of a storm she tried to outrun. There were times when her phone would buzz and she'd tense up, her laughter fading mid-sentence. Other times, she'd change her daily routine, take a different route home, or ask a friend to stay over because she didn't feel safe being alone. The man at the center of those fears was Derek Rankins, 33 years old, a name that would soon become synonymous with the darkness that took her life. Derek wasn't a stranger. He was someone she had known, trusted, and once cared for. But somewhere along the line, affection had soured into anger. Control. Possessiveness. And when Courtney began pulling away, he couldn't stand it. Friends would later say that he had a temper, the kind that could flip from calm to explosive without warning. There had been arguments, threats, and disappearances that never quite felt like goodbyes. Courtney had tried to distance herself, to reclaim the peace she deserved. But Derek wasn't ready to let go. In the weeks before her death, those around her noticed subtle shifts, strange cars parked too long near her home, phone calls that ended in silence, and a growing sense of dread that Courtney tried to hide behind forced smiles. She was determined not to live in fear, but fear had already found her. When police later pieced together the timeline, they believed that Derek had been watching her movements, waiting for an opportunity. It wasn't a random act of rage. It was premeditated, born from obsession and the belief that if he couldn't have her, no one else should. Domestic violence doesn't always start with bruises. It begins with control, with words that cut deeper than wounds, with isolation disguised as love. Courtney's story was a painful reminder of how quickly devotion can turn into danger. And on that humid August night, when she stepped outside into the quiet Atlanta darkness, the danger she had been running from was already there, waiting under the streetlight. August 20th, 2024. It began like any other warm summer evening in southeast Atlanta. The street was still, lit only by the occasional passing car and the dull orange glow of old streetlights. Children were asleep. The neighborhood was quiet. And somewhere in that silence, Courtney Reese stepped outside, unaware that her killer was already watching. It's believed she went out for something small, maybe to take a call or clear her head. But down the block, in the shadows, a man was waiting, Derek Rankins. He had come prepared, wearing a white hooded sweatshirt that partially obscured his face. Cameras from nearby homes later captured him moving with eerie calm, closing the distance step by step. Courtney never stood a chance. The first shot echoed like thunder through the still night. Neighbors thought it was fireworks, until the second and third rang out. Someone screamed. And in the grainy video that police later recovered, you can see the figure in white raise his arm again, standing over her before firing one final time. Then, he turns and runs, disappearing into the darkness as Courtney collapses to the ground. By the time neighbors reached her, she was barely conscious. Blood pooled beneath her as someone called 911, their voice trembling. "A woman's been shot, please hurry." Within minutes, sirens cut through the quiet, blue lights bouncing off windows as police and medics flooded the street. Officers quickly secured the area. They found shell casings scattered on the pavement and the faint outline of a footprint leading away from the scene. But even before they gathered evidence, detectives could sense what this was, a targeted attack, cold and deliberate. Courtney was rushed to the hospital, but the injuries were catastrophic. Despite the doctor's efforts, she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Word spread fast. Family members began arriving at the scene, crying out her name, refusing to believe what they were hearing. Back at the precinct, detectives pored over the surveillance footage. And there, in that silent, haunting clip, was their suspect, the man in the white hoodie, moving with purpose, his face partly turned toward the camera just long enough to reveal what they already feared. It was Derek Rankins. Courtney had been hunted, not by a stranger, but by someone who once held her close. The kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than any wound. And now, with a mother of 4 dead and a killer on the run, Atlanta police launched a manhunt that would end in one of the most chaotic confrontations the city had seen that summer. As dawn broke over Atlanta, detectives already knew who they were hunting. Derek Rankins, the man in the white hoodie, the ex who couldn't let go. His face, captured in a split second of surveillance footage, was enough to confirm what Courtney's family had whispered through their tears: it was him. By mid-morning, the Atlanta Police Department had issued a murder warrant. They believed Derek had fled the city immediately after the shooting, possibly with help. Detectives traced his last known address, questioned relatives, and combed through his digital footprint, social media, phone records, old messages. What they found painted a chilling picture. In the days leading up to Courtney's murder, Derek had been obsessively monitoring her, scrolling through her posts, reacting to photos, watching who she interacted with. One officer described his behavior as a man unraveling. It wasn't spontaneous rage. It was obsession, slowly boiling over into violence. Investigators learned that Derek had ties in Henry County, south of Atlanta. A quiet suburb with tree-lined streets and spacious houses, far from the chaos of the city. For days, he stayed underground, moving between safe houses, keeping his phone off, and avoiding familiar faces. But his past was catching up. On August 27, 2024, exactly 1 week after Courtney's death, officers finally got a lead. Derek had been spotted at a residence in Stockbridge, Georgia. The U.S. Marshal Service, alongside Atlanta Police and Henry County SWAT, moved in to make the arrest. What happened next was chaos. As agents surrounded the property, Derek opened fire from inside, hitting an Atlanta police officer in the arm. Officers returned fire, forcing him deeper into the house. For hours, negotiators tried to reach him, no response. The standoff stretched into the afternoon. Then, silence. When they finally breached the door, they found Derek Rankins dead inside. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation later confirmed they were reviewing whether he had died by suicide or from return fire during the shootout. Either way, the hunt was over. The man who had taken Courtney's life would never stand trial. Detectives quietly packed up the scene that evening, exhausted, their uniforms streaked with sweat and gunpowder. For them, it was closure. But for Courtney's family, it wasn't justice, just another heartbreak, another ending without answers. The official file would mark it as a domestic violence homicide, closed by the suspect's death. But for those who loved her, it was far more than that. It was a story about control, fear, and the devastating cost of silence, one that ended with 2 lives lost and 4 children left without a mother.
Police say they identified Rankins as a suspect, and tonight, Chief Shearbaum says Rankins is dead after an hours-long standoff.
This is what we train for. We recruit men and women who have a quality to stand in the gap for their communities. We train weekly and regularly to make sure when an individual who poses harm to community doesn't want to go back to jail, that we can do so with the least risk to the citizens in the area.
When news broke that Derek Rankins had been found dead after the standoff in Stockbridge, there was no sense of victory, only exhaustion, disbelief, and grief. The man who had hunted and murdered Courtney Reese would never face a jury. There would be no courtroom, no sentencing, no apology. Just silence. For detectives, it was closure on paper. For the Reese family, it was a wound that would never heal. They had waited, hoping to look him in the eyes and ask why. Why take a mother from her children? Why destroy an entire family in one night? But Derek had chosen his own ending, one that denied everyone else the chance to understand his cruelty. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation took over the scene, analyzing every shot fired during that tense August 27 confrontation. Early statements confirmed that Derek had opened fire first, striking an officer in the arm. When the dust settled, it appeared he had turned the gun on himself, a final act of cowardice that robbed the world of answers. In the months that followed, the district attorney's office formally closed the case. There would be no trial to dissect motives, no sentencing to bring relief. The official cause of Courtney's death was listed as homicide, domestic violence related. Derek Rankin's name would forever remain tied to it, his actions immortalized in reports and grim news clips. But outside the paperwork and press briefings, there was no justice, only aftermath. For children now had to grow up without their mother, forever haunted by the story of how she was taken. Family members spoke quietly at gatherings, careful not to let the younger ones overhear. Every holiday, every birthday, came with an empty chair and a lingering question: what could have saved her? For the public, the story faded after a few news cycles. Another case file. Another tragedy labeled domestic. But for those who truly knew Courtney, it wasn't just a headline. It was a life stolen, a future rewritten, and a reminder that sometimes the justice system arrives too late, when both victim and killer are already gone.
It was a vibe, the life of the party.
Her infectious smile is keeping her grieving family's spirit high.
She was everybody's hype man. She was everybody's cook.
Courtney Reese remembered tonight with purple balloons, music, and love.
It's a party. It's a celebration like she would have had any other day.
Lena is Courtney's older sister.
She didn't deserve this. Her kids will miss her sisters, her brother, her dad, her mom.
The 32-year-old shot 10 times at this home along Springside Drive, south of Cleveland Avenue, Tuesday night. Flowers are now in the place she took her last breath. In a video too graphic to play, Courtney pleads with someone before shots are fired. That person ran away. No arrests have been made.
Her life was cut short, but the children still are here. They still got to be provided for.
Courtney leaves behind 3 girls, just 13, 9, and 6 years old, and an 11-year-old son.
She was a great mother, and we want them to have everything that we knew that she was going to do for them.
Their life is her legacy.
Courtney was joy. She was love. She was a protector. She was, a provider.
The community rallied. Fundraisers were launched to support her 4 children. Local advocates spoke about domestic violence, about how warning signs are often invisible until it's too late. Courtney's story became more than a tragedy, it became a message. A reminder of how love, when twisted by control and jealousy, can turn fatal. At her funeral, the church was filled beyond capacity. Rows of people stood shoulder to shoulder, holding white roses. The air was thick with grief and disbelief. The pastor spoke softly, urging everyone to see beyond the pain, to honor Courtney's memory by protecting those still trapped in silence. When the choir began to sing, even the strongest among them broke down. Outside, as the casket was lowered, the sun caught on the edge of the polished wood. The sound of her children crying was a sound no one could forget. Their mother, their world, was gone. Atlanta moved on, as cities do, but for those who loved her, time stood still. Every August, her family gathers to release balloons in her name, each one carrying a prayer into the sky, a plea for peace, for awareness, for an end to the violence that stole her life. Courtney Reese's story is one of heartbreak, but it's also a mirror, reflecting the hidden suffering that too many endure behind closed doors. It's a reminder that sometimes, the most dangerous place isn't a dark alley or an empty street, it's home. And as the candles fade and the world forgets, one question still lingers in the heavy Georgia air. How many more warnings will it take before we truly listen? If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic abuse, reach out. Speak up. Get help. Don't wait until it's too late. This is Fatal Whispers, where every story is a voice for those who can no longer speak. If Courtney's story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to help her voice be heard. And as always, stay safe and stay curious. Because every whisper tells a story.